Good.
Hey, everyone.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Well, apparently, let's see. I don't think anybody has said anything yet.
No.
Okay.
We should trim that part of the video off.
That's
Good
funny.
evening.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Jonathan.
Nick.
And we are the Goslings Part 2.
Part 2.
Because
Take
apparently
2.
we've had a little bit of technical difficulties with first the thumbnail picture, which Nick had decided to do some action shots with.
Yeah.
You know, as he was setting up the lighting.
Three tries.
Yeah.
3 tries on the thumbnail picture.
It was good because it was like looking over here and just.
And the great part about this video is that the first minute and 45 seconds there was no sound because the mute button was on
the microphone. Yeah.
But now you should be able to hear us.
Is that true? So like
that's good. That's good. Yeah, you can see our level right there. See the
yeah. Okay. Now I'm paranoid about it.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
My
that's
bad.
Funny. Well, you know, that's the irony of it.
This will be the one video that gets 0 views.
Yeah, well, it'll be the only video that probably will require some editing. You know, because like I don't edit anything, you know. I used to edit back when I did videos for the gun shop, you know, and you know, and you know from the stuff that you've been doing for the Travelers League, you edit stuff, you know.
Oh yeah.
But when you get to a place where you're just like sick of technology, and you just want to write, and you just want to like order a pizza and watch John Carpenter's Vampires again, or Clear and Present Danger again.
I watched that one again, sure. Yeah.
Oh man, I watched that last night for the first time. It was I forgot how good of a movie that is, and how awesome James Woods is in that movie.
Yeah.
You know, and the fat bald one.
Yeah.
You know, and now I'm the fat bald one of the.
You're not bald.
No, this is shaved. This is not bald. You know, I haven't grown out my grand thumb hair yet. So, anyways, we were talking about Thanksgiving plans and how busy the week has been.
Very busy. It's been very busy week.
And I was telling all of you that I'm horrible about like making plans or figuring out what plans to go with, because I have people in my life who love me far more than I deserve. And so they'll invite me to stuff and I won't know what I'm doing until the last second. So if you have ever invited me to anything, I apologize, you know, because I will not figure it out until I'm like in the shower. So
I think Rihanna, the wife and kids and I are going to a state park. We're going to go to a state park
and
spend Thanksgiving and the next day down there. Get away from everything. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. You should bring your typewriter.
Thinking about it.
Yeah.
Thinking about it.
Dude,
well, I'm probably going to take the Chromebook, not the typewriter.
Yeah, sure.
Not the typewriter, because we're staying in a hotel.
Oh, okay.
And so there are adjacent people.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm having trouble with the typewriter.
Really?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with I can't get the ink strip to rest in the typewriter. It keeps bunching up as I type. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, and the letter L keeps getting stuck
in
the strike position.
Yeah, of course. So you have
to
come up and
it gets stuck.
Flick it back.
I'm thinking that little hands got on it.
Maybe it's possible. I have the problem of letters will be like there's something off about the gears, and so certain letters will be spaced way far out from where they should be, and it's not a space bar issue. It's just like the way the hammer strikes.
Weird.
I don't know. It must be something in the timing, you know. But there's still people around who work on these things.
Check this out. You can see here. Like I was having trouble with the ink ribbon. I had to, and then right here is where I decided to try to fiddle with it. That's my fingerprint.
I was wondering what that was.
That's my fingerprint, and then we got it going, and then it was bolder.
I thought that was just like a water smudge.
So this was written with distraction, and I think that's going to be my main point.
Oh yeah,
this is not great.
Yeah, good.
It's not great, but it's
right.
something.
You know, it's something. Well, that's kind of the point of this. That was the thing that I liked about the Inklings. You know, their parameters were it doesn't matter what you bring or how much, just bring something.
Something, yeah.
And it can be written on a cocktail napkin or it can be a manuscript. It doesn't matter. Just bring some. And I was in a writing group for a while called the Penny Dreadfuls. It was back in 2009, 2008. And there were 4 of us, and that lasted about 3 sessions before everybody started coming up with excuses not to bring something. I hated it. But like a writer's group, like if any of you who watch this, if you're in a band, like if you think it's hard, corralling, herding cats when it comes to, like getting your band members together. Nothing compared to like getting writers. Like I had one of the Shell girls tell me one time, I think it was Hannah, that like getting everybody together to like travel to the next location was like herding grasshoppers. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. It's awful, but writers are even worse. Just because we're introverts, and so like isolated, self-absorbed, like maybe probably a little not proactive.
Like locusts, we are a plague of one.
Right. Yeah.
It's like a grasshopper is a pretty good representation of a writer.
Yeah.
A very oversized and truly uninteresting insect.
Yeah.
With unique abilities, and people fear them in hordes. Yeah. But the writer would never do that.
Yeah.
We're not going to get in crowds.
No.
Do anything.
Peak archetypal insectoid writer is the cricket. Yeah. He just makes noise in the middle of the night, kind of irritating. If you see it, you probably want to squash it.
Yeah.
Children are afraid of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cricket. You got to understand a crumpet before you can understand cricket. That's a movie quote, by the way, for anybody who's cool. You'll get that one too. I almost want to do that once a week.
Movie reference?
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do a movie reference. I don't know. I don't know that movie.
Oh, that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh.
The first one. When he encounters Casey.
The big with like from the 8? From the
90s? The original, the very first one. When he encounters Casey, and Casey's the guy with like with the cricket
hockey
bat
stick
and the hockey
bat. Yeah.
And he's like, "Is that a cricket bat?" I think it's Raphael. Is that a cricket bat? I think Corey Feldman, voiced him. And he's like, you got to know what a crumpet is before you understand cricket, By the way, for anybody watching this, another thing that I picked up on last session was Adam Burrell, my narrator for Audible. He had left a couple comments in the live stream. I am horrible at this kind of thing. So anybody who leaves a comment on the live stream, I'll try to pay attention to it more, but dude, I don't,
I'll try to catch him.
Yeah,
I'll try to catch.
One of us needs to.
Hey, Adam. I liked his comments.
He's cool.
I check, 2 or 3 different, YouTube channels every day.
Oh yeah,
that I'm trying to be involved in.
Right. Yeah.
Trying to keep in the air.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll keep my eye open. I'll do my best to respond to comments.
Man, I'll tell you the interesting thing about going down to the state park. That sounds so cool. I really this past week have thought about just what would it take to liquidate as many assets as I could and just go buy a bungalow a mile from the beach in Florida and just have plumbing and electricity, no Wi-Fi, and just exist with a typewriter. Just like me, the dog, my books, my guns, and a typewriter.
Yeah, why can't you can do that.
I know. Yeah, I don't think there's anything stopping me. At this point, I think it's just a matter of
except our massive subscriber base.
Yeah, you guys would miss us.
You would miss us.
Yeah, that's true.
But
so I apologize. You want to read?
Sure.
Your one-off.
Yeah, sure.
Oh wait, let's. We should do this.
Oh, we should. Yeah, we should do the rock paper scissors to see if it goes. Maybe I won't lose this time.
So rock paper scissors shoot.
Yeah, rock paper scissors,
and then winner
do it on shoot. You're right. Ready? Go.
Rock paper scissors shoot. Rock paper scissors shoot.
Gummit.
Yeah.
Gummit.
That's how you trick them. Do the
twice
same thing every time.
Yeah, twice in a row.
Gummit. All right, go for it.
All right, here we go. Short story. 1-pager. Wait.
We heard little hands at the door.
Okay, I'm gonna. They don't come in unless I actually start reading or writing. Okay, You'll see. You'll see. Benson was on his 3rd daiquiri. In the reflection of the mirror behind the bar, he could enjoy the strip of pink clouds muting the setting sun. Hell's Beach was anything but hellish. White sand, pretty girls, and an open-air tiki bar every quarter of a mile or so. Expats Expats hid from the world in this place, a third world hovel, invisible to the eyes of progressive politics and the tax man. Yeah, we were just talking about that, right? Yeah.
Stop writing about my life. Right?
Benson, this is hard to read because of the ink. I really apologize. I do know how to read, if you're wondering.
That's not a requirement to be a writer, by the way.
You don't have to read to be a writer. See, Benson still had a couple of good decades left in him, and he sure as hell wasn't going to spend it shouldering Uncle Sam's rifle. He didn't have permission to leave, and he couldn't have cared less. He didn't recall giving his soul to Washington, and rights came from God, right? Isn't that what the founding document said? But it's not true because some old wise Whigs wrote it down. It's true on a deeper level. Even now, when the once great America has turned its guns on its own, voiding the Declaration in the name of progressivism and claiming its deed on the soul of its citizens, Benson was done, resolved to drowning his demons in rum until either they or he vanished. But demons don't vanish, and a man has to sleep, and nothing can keep the images of what he'd done from his nightmares. Too little, too late, he whispered into the glass as he sipped the last measure of cheap rum. It tasted like blood. It always did. And every drink failed to dim the face of the little girl who was unlucky enough to have been born to conservative traitors. She shouldn't have run, but the bullet did catch her. That was the order. Benson was the red right hand of the Purge Party. They should have used machines, but machines are expensive, and machines are valuable.
Dude, that's awesome.
That is awesome. Thank you.
Love it.
Thank you.
That is cool, man.
Yeah.
Dark, prescient.
Yeah.
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 That's what put you in the place to write that. I mean, aside from like the news.
I was gonna say, besides the despair,
yeah,
the well of despair I fall down every time I get online.
I know.
No, I don't know. I don't know where the name Benson came from. I just deepest fears coming to life. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Well, it's such a. I mean, that is, especially as a dad. You know, that is such a fearful topic. That it's something that rests in the back of your brain. I bet. You know, of like. You know, your children are your legacy, but they're also, you know, they're your love, but they're also your liability in a way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I was talking to Todd at Tread Proof about this yesterday when we were out there, and we both lost our moms to cancer. Actually, we lost our mom to leukemia, and they lost their mom to cancer as well. And we were talking about how, and this is not the first time we've had that conversation, but how, you know, you almost want to be in a place in times like these, in dark times, where you don't have too many people that you love who are vulnerable, because it is a liability for you.
Absolutely.
In case something, I was
you got a lot to lose. You got a lot to lose.
But the irony is that is also the very thing that gives you the motivation to fight. You know, I was talking to a girl about that on Instagram earlier today. About like, you know, how she has 2 babies, you know, and then she's like a little like warrior chick, you know, like works out all the time. And it's like, you know, yeah, you don't want to be caught with like a plate carrier and a papoose, you know, and an AR, you know, but at the same time, like, you know, without that, you know, you fall on the other side of the camp where you have only your own emotion and the self-indulgence to motivate you to do anything. You know, it's a navel gazing narcissism,
for,
you know,
a lot, yeah.
So, yeah. And you know what, man, like there are a lot of dudes who are like that, who, you know, like they get caught up into a beast, a mechanical beast system, you know, that has maybe some predatory motives, but the tragedy is that the fighting arm of that is done by really virtuous dudes.
Yeah,
you know?
Mainly, you know, law enforcement officers that are 2 years away from their pension and retirement.
Yeah.
You know, you think about someone who's served a long career, they finally made it, and then all of a sudden they've survived the career, and they're getting ready to retire. Their wife is ready for them to retire. Their kids are ready for them to retire. They're just a year or two away.
Maybe about to be grandfathers.
Maybe.
You know?
And then then they're posed with the decision. Okay, what if I enforce a law that is unconstitutional at the risk of, do I stand on principle and say no and risk losing my job? Or do I just, I'm 2 years out from my retirement. This is what I've worked my whole life for, my whole career for. I'm only a year or two away. And all I have to do is trample somebody else's constitutional rights.
Right.
They're going to trample your rights.
Yeah.
They're going to trample your rights because they got a lot to lose.
Yeah.
They've got a lot to lose.
I think a lot of those older guys, by surviving have figured out maybe how to make themselves unavailable for that, or how to navigate around it. See, I think the real problem with that is the younger guys who are like 2 years or 2 months in, who don't know any better, who in their, because none of us are law professors, much less constitutional law professors. And when you're wet behind the ears, man, in their godly humility to be a good soldier, a good trooper, a good, whatever, you in your humility say, okay, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a judge. People who are smarter and more educated than me have already, figured this out and rolled down the orders.
Mm-hmm.
And now they are to me, and it's my job to enforce this. And this is righteous because it comes from up on high, and I think those are the guys that are maybe even more dangerous.
Maybe.
With good intentions.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Hopefully we won't have to find out, but we probably will, because it doesn't look good.
Yeah.
You heard the despair in my writing. That's where my mind is right now.
Yeah. Well, if the past 3 weeks have taught us anything, it's that
Man.
There is no political solution. Sorry.
I don't know.
You better get your water filter ready. Berkey water filters, not a bad investment. Get the ones with the fluoride filter.
It's either give them everything they want and let America die.
Yep.
Or you better have supplies and a bunker and guns, because
full prepper. What's funny is that we both,
you can tell I didn't spend my money on prepping.
Well, I mean, whatever. Who's to say that this isn't lined with Kevlar and AR-500 plates?
I've spent it on leisure.
Yeah, I see the Tiki Lounge as being a rallying point.
Yeah.
Rally point Tiki.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's funny. We grew up in the 90s, the 80s and 90s. But during the 90s, prepping was this big funny thing, especially the back half of the 90s, where it was a thing that everybody looked down on.
Yeah, Y2K was coming.
Y2K was coming, and all of the weirdo, losers, all the fringe people were all out in the woods, with their bunkers and their, and their decades worth of, spam.
Yep.
And and back then, you could still get certain toys that were, pretty cool, as a curio and relic. But everybody laughed at those people, and everybody was like, "God, you guys are just a bunch of weirdos," whatever. Yeah. And man, now here we are, 25 years later, and we're like, "Oh, those guys are right."
Yeah.
They're sad. Whoops. There's something in the Bible about that, I'm sure. I'm sure there's some prophet, but
let's hear yours, man.
Yeah, sure. So mine's along the same lines. It actually is kind of a sneak peek at a special unabridged edition of Empyrean Falling that I'm doing.
Okay, cool.
So, and I didn't cheat this time, by the way. So see, there's no quote right up here to take up the first fifth. So some tricks you learn, in Mrs. Rosenbaum's 4th grade class just stick with you forever. Okay, here we go. It's the same dream every night, brother, Orion said as he stood against the window. He folded his arms and sighed. His breath fogged up the glass. He wiped it away with a calloused finger, preferring to leave an impolite, oily smudge as opposed to a temporary lagoon of condensation on the vertical plane. The dark comes, and we stumble. The light comes, and we are blinded. I wake with a dry mouth and the taste of iron under my headache. Tempest rounded his bureau and handed Orion a cup of coffee. His twin took it and indicated the smudge. Sorry. That's what the custodial staff is for, said Tempest. Gives me a way to punish Gabriel's heart pluckers and Michael's line fighters when they step out of line. He watched Orion take a sip of the steaming liquid black brew. Drink it all. It'll help with the circulation, get rid of that headache. He squinted and breathed. Now is not a time for timidity in all things, brother. I know, Orion said ruefully. He upended the cup. Tempest took it from him and refilled it, after spiking his own with a bit of brandy. I wish you were around more. I could use a furlough. These are trying times, Orion, said Tempest. We all must make sacrifices. Yours may have to be of a familial variety, for a time at least. He slinked back over to his shorter sibling and stared out the window of the Citadel office. The two stood side by side for a trice. Have you meditated like I taught you? Yes, said Orion. I've walked the 7 breaths. He hesitated, unsure if he should say it. But, as Tempest had said, these were trying times, not given to timidity. I know Patriarch Michael says we are to replace fear with faith, but what worries me is this. We are surrounded by our brethren, and yet, the only thing that brings me peace in those mad midnight moments are my prayers.
That's awesome.
Another dark presagement of Civil War.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. Like when I wrote Empyrean Falling back in, I wrote that from 99 to, I think the first draft was finished in 2005, maybe 2004. And ultimately that is a book about Civil War. You know, that is very, because as a Southerner in the United States, like, you know, the Civil War is very much a part of our identity still.
Yeah, it's everywhere. You see it everywhere.
Yeah, generationally, you know, even though there's no ties, you know, in living memory to any of that anymore. There's no one who survived it who's still alive, you know, but still it permeates, you know. And I think that really informed a lot of it, a lot of the writing, just the spirit of it, you know. And then when I went back to revise it back in 2019, after you published the timepiece, I got to writing more of it. And I delved a little, even though that book got shorter, I focused more on certain aspects of it, one of which was the burgeoning disconnect between the two sides, you know, and how, because like in the first few versions, you don't spend a lot of time with the buildup, you know, like you show a few scenes, but the plot has to keep going so that you can get to the meat of the story, which is the actual conflict, the hot war. But there's a cold war that always presages the hot war, you know, and I got to deal a little bit more in that Cold War portion of it. And what I found myself doing without realizing it was infusing a lot of the same scenes that we had seen on the news over the past 2 or 3 years at that point. You know, some of the riots and, you know, the brawls and the protests and just that civil unrest of, you know, of this 10% and this 10%, even though they both represent 50%, you know, and these two 10% are clashing. And now that I'm doing this like unabridged edition, it's sort of like the doors are just flung wide open to be able to, you know, because it's almost double in length now, you know, and
you're fleshing it out.
Yeah, really, you get to spend more time like really digging into that, because you don't want to short shift that part of it and make it feel contrived and forced. You know, you have to have a natural buildup, but at the same time, if you do that on a 1-to-1 ratio, you'll spend 1,000 pages just doing that. You know, if you treat it the way logically and historically it's supposed to go. because it's like the war where people are killing each other is really only like 20%, and the other 80% is like exhausting all the other options until you get there.
Yeah.
You know? And so it was always really hard to like balance those two. But now, you know, with all this extra space opened up for more chapters and more scenes, it's a lot more fun to like really dive into that psychologically with characters who I had neglected. Like in the first version, or in the first published version of Empyrean Falling, Tempest is he's one of the three main bad guys, and he gets almost no page time, you know, because he's not really that.
Too bad. It's got such a cool name.
Yeah, he's a really cool character. And you know what's funny? Like, I didn't spend any time with him leading up to him because I never really understood how to write him. And he wasn't as relevant as like Satan was, or as relevant as Mazarel was, because they had rivalries with Michael, and Michael is like the one character that I understood, or at least thought I understood the most. So it's almost like you're writing everything else, the bad guys, how they reflect back onto Michael, you know, as the protagonist. But Tempest didn't have any of that. He didn't have a rivalry. He didn't, you know, so he just kind of was on the fringe. But now going back and writing these special editions, I've had more time to sort of figure out what kind of character he is. And he actually ended up developing into like maybe one of the most colorful characters.
That's
like
great.
He's kind of got this like dark samurai vibe to him. Like the whole 7 Breaths is from the Hagakure.
Oh, okay.
It's either the Hagakure or the Book of 5 Rings, but he's got like this real like, you know, malevolent Bushido kind of thing.
That's great. That's cool.
Yeah, so it's been a lot of fun. But that's the kind of thing that you kind of encounter when you go back and you rewrite something and you decide to like really take the governor off. You know, have you experienced that at all?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I mean, on a kid's level, there's always a backstory. There's always a backstory or a side story. Yeah, I mean, you take any character. There's always a backstory.
That's the funny thing about it, right?
Yeah, there's always more you can write into the world.
Yeah, I mean, you really can. You know, you can write a 1,000-page book, and you'll feel exhausted, but that exhaustion is temporary. You know, and you can always go back. There's always more somewhere. There's always either more backstory or like, okay, there are levels of writing, not competency wise, but there are layers. So like the deepest layer is your theme or your message, right? And then the layer on top of that is your story. And then the layer on top of that is your plot. And your plot is your sequence of events. So like your theme could be, you know, your theme or your message could be, you know, only God saves, right? And then your story could be, I want to write about a civil war, right? And then your plot is, these are the events, these are the places, the who, what, when, where, and why. And then, but then there's another layer that a lot of people don't think about, which is your narrative. Your story, your plot, and your narrative are not the same thing. So, like, you could take the American Civil War, right? Or just take the Battle of Gettysburg. You know, the Battle of Gettysburg has a plot, a sequence of events from, you know, day 1 with, you know, General Buford to day 3 with Pickett's charge. That's your plot, your sequence of events. Your narrative is the elements from that plot that you choose to show, that you choose to give page time to. You know, and then on top of that is the final layer, at least I can figure, the final layer is your prose, which is how you articulate the narrative, which are the scenes that you choose to show. So the cool thing is where you get all that extra material is in between the layers of narrative and plot. Because the plot happens whether you choose to show it or not. So you choose to show, you know, these elements of these 12 worlds at these particular times with these characters. But just because you don't show it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Right, sure.
You know, so there's all this backlog of material that you can really dig into. And as long as it all focuses in on the theme, as long as it doesn't deviate from the theme, it's all there.
Yep.
You know, and it's a living, breathing world.
I wrote a backstory to Travelers League.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I wrote a
Yeah.
backstory. So the first book established the worlds. Then I wrote the other 5, and then I realized I could write a backstory about the main bad guy.
Yeah.
And I use that as a giveaway to get emails.
That's right.
To build my email list.
Is that in paperback or is that an ebook?
It's an ebook only.
Ebook only.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's a giveaway. It's free. But that was fun doing that because it's the same worlds, and I had already laid out the plot roughly of what happened way back when this bad guy was young.
Yeah.
He made this journey through all these worlds, and so I had to figure out what was that going to look like. Through whose perspective would we watch this boy go through these worlds, and it end up turning him into the antagonist of the Travelers League series.
What do you think, like based off of that, now that you've played with that motif and you play with that psychology, what makes you think, at least in Braxo's case, makes a person become bad? What are the choices that they make along the way?
Well,
without giving anything away about Braxo,
I think that the theme of the backstory, if I go down to the theme level, is that hurting people, people who are hurting people hurt people. Yeah. And so it's about being wounded and learning how to deal with that. And, when you don't deal with that in a healthy way, you end up
paying it forward.
And if you end up paying it forward too much, it becomes a part of who you are. Yeah. And it certainly becomes your legacy.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah.
And is that, you can get to a certain point where you've gone down the dark path, the dark side so far where you're irredeemable, and you have to go pretty far down the dark path to be irredeemable. Yeah. Because the Travelers League follows, and it's the Travelers League, at least the books 3, 4, and 5. So it's 5-book series. 3, 4, and 5 really follow one character who is a good guy, but he messes up and he starts going down that dark path, being vengeful and spiteful and hurt and trying to get back, and that those books are about him causing a whole lot of pain and hurt in other people's lives, but him still he doesn't go so far that he can't be redeemed. The backstory of the main bad guy of the series is the opposite story, quite honestly, where he got hurt and he went down the same type dark path, but he went so far there was no chance of redemption. Yeah.
Do you incorporate any sort of like Christian mythos or logos or anything, or do you keep it purely secular? Because I've done that with my books, right?
Secular, purely secular, purely secular, but Christian themes, Christian themes,
very Narnia-esque,
very much regard.
So, that's how you sneak it in.
That's right.
So you just slip it right in there.
It's secular. It's secular, but still written with a premium on Christian values.
Yeah. Well, and you can still do that without being overt about it. Like that. I wrote a book called Acronaut, which was about a blind hoplite in mercenary. So like in ancient Greece, during the Hellenistic and classical period, they had mercenary bands, especially after the Persian Wars, in between the Persian and then leading into the Peloponnesian War, and especially during the Peloponnesian War, because that was Athens versus Sparta, And so they had all these mercenary bands running around of hoplites, these heavy infantry guys, who just like any mercenaries, they had no real loyalty. The interesting thing about it is that there are recorded instances of there being blind hoplites, guys who were blinded by combat or disease or whatever, or just old age, but they could still fight, because you don't have to see, you can't see anything anyways, apparently in a phalanx battle, right. In ancient Greece, because those weirdos, they'd have their battles in the summer in a valley, like the hottest place you possibly could in the hottest time of year in the Mediterranean. So I had this whole book about first-person narrative of this blind hoplite, and there's this one part where they come up to I think they're in Corinth. I can't remember, but there's the statue of the unnamed god in one of these Greek cities, and it has its roots in the Judeo-Christian sort of Yahweh, Yeshua kind of lineage, and their like resident priest kind of who travels with him, their cleric, who kind of goes with him, is really haunted by it, and it's just this mild touchstone in a whole setting that is, that predates Christianity, that is completely devoid of Christianity. And yet, you still have this one moment where it's almost like a pinprick of logos, in a sackcloth, shroud that kind of pokes through, and you can't ignore it. It's like a single light beam poking through. And it kind of changes the story up a little bit, but in a very subtle way that, that's kind of how God, I think, works a lot of times in those regards. And it's interesting how characters in pain work, because like you have characters who can't escape their pain, and they use their survival mechanisms. Coping mechanisms become habitual survival mechanisms, and they do become habit forming. So like if you're hurt, eventually, especially if you're young when you're hurt, that imprints a life pattern on you. It's abuse. Most people who abuse were abused, kind of thing. And it transcends across, I think, all of villainy. I think you and I would agree that most people, while all humanity needs to be redeemed, most people, if anyone, is not born bad. Most people start out, being fairly innocent in their approach, and it takes an imprint, an injury along the way to steer them into that path. And I know people who they were hurt or traumatized as children, who then, even though they haven't gone on to hurt or traumatize others, they have learned that by being predatory, in one way or another, whether it's just stealing or whether it's lying, or whether it's being flaky or deceptive, very mild ways, but those are survival weapons in their survival mechanism pack that they use to navigate the world, because if they don't do it to them, someone's going to do it. And if they don't do it to someone else, someone's going to do it to them, kind of thing. It becomes a preemptive strike, kind of trauma. And without, I mean, honestly, I don't know what the answer to that is outside of religion, outside of, salvation, because that's, otherwise you never can let go of it, because there's no peace. It just haunts you.
I'd agree with that.
Kind of like Benson.
Yeah, he's going to be haunted forever.
Yeah.
He's going to drink himself to death.
Yeah. Well, it's like that character in Saving Private Ryan, the sniper, played by Barry Pepper. Like they even address it at one point. They're like, man, he just, he's sleeping when they're in the church, and he's like, he sleeps so soundly, and no one is close. Ironically, no one is closer to the violence they inflict than Barry Pepper's character, because he sees everything through that scope, So he's not running right up on people, mowing them down as the smoke is obscuring things. He's getting a nice zoomed in look on somebody as he sends a bullet right into their eye, and yet the irony is he sleeps the soundest out of all of them. And it's because he has that faith. He has that cleared conscience, and there's nothing more valuable than a clear conscience.
Nope. 100%.
Gosh,
100%.
Man,
Well, is there anything else you wanted to talk about on the video?
Cryptomnesia is pretty funny. I was telling Nick about Cryptomnesia earlier.
Cryptomnesia.
Yeah, it's probably Cryptomnesia. I keep wanting to call it Cryptamnesia because it makes sense, but Cryptomnesia is a concept where you hear or you see something that gets embedded in your brain, and then later on you regurgitate it thinking that it's your idea. You've forgotten where the inspiration came from. And it's really funny going back and watching like videos and movies from my youth.
And you
because
see that coming out in your writing. Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
yeah, like Gettysburg,
Oh yeah.
Clear and Present Danger.
I'm writing like
Jurassic
I'm writing
Park.
fantasy.
Robin Hood.
Oh man.
You know, like how many
Lord
times
of the Rings,
Lord of the Rings,
Narnia, Star Wars, which is not sci-fi, it's space fantasy.
Space fantasy. That's right. Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah, that was a hard one to convince people of back in the 90s. By the way, for any of you watching this, like Nick and I are of the generation that grew up with Star Wars when Star Wars was not popular. There are people out there who don't believe me when I tell them there was a dark age.
There was. It was the age of Star Trek.
Yeah, it was. It was the age of Star Trek.
It was the next generation. Star Trek: The Next Generation.
That's right.
When that aired during its many seasons, it was during those times that Star Wars, its star was waning. Its star was on the descent. But it has once again risen. It was a rough rise.
Yeah,
it was a rough rise.
It was. Yeah, not without some growing pangs along the way. Yeah, I'll try spinning. That's a good trick. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that correlation, but that's totally true. Star Wars, it did, it from probably the mid to late 80s all the way through to the late 90s.
Star Wars belongs to the Gen Xers.
It really does.
And millennials need to just
they need
stop meddling.
Up. Yeah. Yeah. Shut up before we shut you down. Because I know, dude. I say that as like a proto-millennial myself, technically speaking. But yeah, the millennial generation. I got my second Twitter timeout not too long ago.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I feel proud of it. Well, I started Parler actually because of that.
Okay.
Because apparently, like election day, I started Twitter under the advisement of my marketing manager. I started my Twitter account that she had set up for me because after procrastinating, I didn't realize that it was election day when I did it.
Yeah.
Which is hard to believe, but when it's 6 a.m. and you just got finished working, you don't think about that.
Yeah.
And I'd left a comment on Gina Carano's post. I wasn't on Twitter supporting Gina Carano, by the way. Gina Carano is awesome. But I wasn't on Twitter for an hour before I got my first timeout, which I think is a new record for me in social media. It was a nice 12-hour timeout. And then this last this last Friday, which ironically was the same day I was supposed to have a conference call with my marketing manager. I had to break the news to her that same day I had left a comment on that Star Wars girl's Twitter feed, and she's awesome. She's this like killer, Star Wars chick who gets it, and she's red-pilled. She's pretty based. And so I had said something naughty on that, according to the Twitter mob.
Oh, yeah.
That landed me a 7-day timeout.
Oh, geez.
I was like, wow, yeah, we didn't even go to like 24 hours. We went straight from 12 hours to
7 days.
To 7 days. So I was like, all right. At a certain point, that becomes a feather in your cap.
Yeah.
But you still have to market yourself on social media. So I just hopped right over.
There needs to be badges,
like
badges on social media that you can display.
That's a good idea.
Have like a club.
Yeah, I'm sure there is, right? There's got to be like a persona non grata club.
Yeah, like if you follow a page or you can be like a top fan. You get the little top fan badge.
Right, there needs to be a naughty fan.
Yeah, but on Parler,
a faux pas badge.
Yeah, on Parler, like have a Parler. I don't know if they do groups or it's just hashtag related or what, but have just a whole community of people that are just awarding each other this set of like congratulations, commendations for getting kicked off or banned,
the
or
higher
achieving
your rank,
some level
of infamy. And make like some Three Amigos badges.
Absolutely.
Because like the higher your ranking is like how many times you've been banned from other social media or be put in timeout like you're a child. It's so funny, man. Like, whatever.
Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.
Yeah.
Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you can be banned by all three of those at the same time.
Yeah. It becomes a game.
And not shut down completely, but you get banned from all three. Let's say you share the same thing on all three platforms and you get banned by all three.
Yeah.
And then when you come back on to those platforms, when your timeout is over, then you get like the Three Amigos award.
I was going to say we could do a Three Amigos metric. Like for each one, how awesome is it? YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter each represented by one of the three amigos.
Yeah.
By, Chevy Chase or whoever. And then that's your badge. So people know what platform you're banned from. And if you get all three at the same time, you get the El Guapo Award.
El Guapo.
El Guapo. Yeah. You get the Plethora Award.
The Plethora. Plethora.
Do you know what a plethora is? Yeah. Jefe was his henchman.
Jefe was the henchman.
Yeah. Okay. I do not possess your superior intellect.
And education.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna miss not seeing my senorita tonight. It's gonna be a bummer.
Oh man.
We gotta do Thanksgiving early.
Yep.
So, which is probably where we need to head to in a second here. Although we do have 3 people watching. I'm impressed by that.
Hello, 3 people.
Hi.
Glad you're watching.
I don't
You
know who
can
you
comment
are,
if you want to comment. We can type.
Yeah.
We have typing skills. Sorry about bumping the microphone there.
Yeah.
But feel free. Maybe we're 2 of those 3.
That'd be awesome. Yeah. It's like us 2.
Oh, now it's down to 2.
Yeah, no, it's 2. Someone
now
was
it's just us
That's funny. Someone was like,
talking
you know what?
to ourselves.
I'm out of here. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Oh, I said comment. I'd love to chat with you, and they dropped off.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
They're like, oh, no.
You know what?
This is for my own personal entertainment.
I'm not here to contribute. I'm here to.
It's kind of like when the monkey says, "Get in the cage, come on in."
Yeah, like, all right, children, roll them up. Roll them up. We're out.
There's a couple of gorillas throwing poop at each other. Like, hey, you want to join it?
Yeah. You want to be the Samsonite piece of luggage in this gorilla commercial?
We're shooting a Samsonite commercial.
Mm-hmm. Climb in the luggage. It'll be all right. Well, what do you have coming up? Anything?
So 4th episode of the series of kids videos we're making called Kidventures, the variety show.
Yeah.
4th episode coming out this week. I have Hacker Jack coming out on December 5th, which is a middle grade sci-fi action book for kids. And thinking about I'm actually writing material right now for a series of YouTube videos to give kids tips about writing. Writers kids writers tips.
Homeschool dad in action.
Yeah, well, I'm going to be playing very heavily on the homeschool dad part of it.
So is it going to be like a curriculum kind of thing?
Almost, yeah. It's going to be maybe 10 or 11 shorter videos.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about just a number of different things.
Are you going to do any Amazon thing like a workbook or anything along, or is it just going to be video only?
Well, for right now, I'm only focused on the videos, but I haven't thought that far ahead about like creating an actual curriculum. But I am going to be doing something like that only in person with a group of homeschool kids here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Dude, that'll be a good
next school year.
That's like good focus group testing.
It is. It'll be like a writers club for kids, and every time they come, we're going to talk about a different thing. They have to bring something every time.
Yeah. Send them home if they don't.
It's like the Goslings, only homeschool kids, and they're going to pay.
Well, that's funny too, because good, make them pay.
It's curriculum. It's there's not a lot out there for kids. There is not a lot out there for kids who want to write, who are wondering if they want to be an aspiring actor. The cool thing about aspiring author, the cool thing about it is, unlike a police officer or a doctor or a lawyer, when you're a kid, you can't actually do any of that work.
Right.
You have to go and grow up and jump through all the hoops to do thing.
Yeah.
But with writing,
you can do it.
You can write now.
Yeah.
You can create a story now, and you can publish it now.
I was literally.
You can be an author right now.
I was literally writing stories at 6 years old. I think I still have the notepad.
Can you imagine if you had the self-publishing access at 6 as we do today?
Yeah, with parents who are encouraging you and motivating you to do it.
That's the only reason there isn't a market out there.
Yeah.
There's a market out there, but an industry has not found its roots for kids. They've talked about self-publishing, the internet, and how it's just changed everything, but they're not talking about how it affects the opportunities for kids.
Yeah.
Who know what they want to do.
Yeah. Well, and the cool, like, communal, mutual contributory aspect of that, like if you were a kid and you read some other kid's published book, you would probably tee off of that with your own ideas.
Maybe.
Like, it'd be really cool in that little homeschool group to have like some sort of collaborative.
Yeah, they might have to. I might make them do that.
You know, that'd be
Yeah.
fun. That'd be like level 2.
Yeah.
You know? Level
Yeah.
1 is getting him to show up.
Yeah, I'm
with
going through. I think
something,
I'm just going to
you
be
know?
10. I think 10 weekly meetings with one different topic each week,
Yeah.
with some sort of big curriculum goal at the end. I mean, one thing they have to do when they get to the end of the 10 classes, if you want to call them that, and I'm going to align the videos along with those 10 different topics.
That's awesome.
So
Cool.
they have to watch the video before they come to the
okay.
thing, and they have to do the work before they come to the thing.
Now, is that like a subscription only thing, or can
Mm-mm.
anybody watch the videos online?
Anybody can.
Okay.
Anybody will be able to watch them.
That's awesome.
get
And
them,
it's going to
yeah.
be through the Travelers League?
Yeah, it's going to be on the Travelers League YouTube channel.
That's cool.
Yep.
Is the
I'm going to call it Writing Tips for Kids.
That's cool.
Yep.
Now, the Mrs. did books too. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is she going to help you out with doing this, or is this a solo?
I hope so.
Because she's like the homeschool whiz.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I hope
Yeah.
I'm sure she will. Yeah, I'm sure. And a lot of these, a lot of this is being encouraged by her. She's very encouraging.
That's
of
awesome.
this.
I
A lot
can
of
see that.
there are some other moms in her homeschool community that are really receptive and hopeful that something like this comes along. So we're gonna
Dude, you can even parlay that into like some sort of camping, like Boy Scouts-esque kind of trip at
Almost.
some point.
Yeah.
You know?
yeah
Like we're all going to go out into the woods and we're going to find something cool to write about. You know?
yeah.
I'm going to teach you kids how to build a fire. And you know,
Yeah. You never know where
you
something
never
like
know.
that could
Like
go.
the possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're like, yeah, how much do I really need technology? There's still notepads and pens, right? You know, we're not all in our bubbles.
No,
you know,
we are not. Well, that's
our Wu-Tang bubbles.
Maybe I should
You
tell
know?
them to handwrite something. No,
No,
I don't
you
know.
think that's too much?
that's too.
That could
It's-
be a little too much. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't push it. Just
Yeah.
get them there with something.
like I'm
first.
only gonna let kids come whose moms have flip phones.
So-
How successful do you think that's gonna be?
Yeah, do.
Acknowledge the reality of technology, but try not to make a big deal of it.
I know. Yeah, flip phone gang.
Yeah.
Yep. Nick's got his on the
Yeah. charger
charger over there. So, well, cool, man. Well, that's exciting.
Thank
yeah.
you,
And
yeah.
when is that gonna launch? Do you have any idea?
Well, I should be putting dates on these types of things, but it's the aim is for next school year, so mid-January
Oh, wow.
is when I'll launch the first video.
Yeah, sweet.
whenever school starts back up.
So, if you guys and you're still doing videos for the Travelers League, is it Kid Ventures?
Kid Ventures, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, guys, you gotta go check that out because like I used to do the editing for like those gun shop videos and like I know how much work goes into
Ugh.
editing,
Yeah.
and his videos are like they're light years beyond what I
Oh,
was able to
thanks,
do.
man.
They're awesome. So
Thank you.
yeah, if you
Thank
want,
you.
you got to go over and check them out. So
Thank you.
I'm Jonathan.
Nick, good to
We're
see
the
you guys.
Goslings. Take care. Happy Turkey Day. I guess.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Hopefully, we will see you guys next Sunday. I think.
I'm
Are we
planning on it.
still,
Yeah, I'm planning on it.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.
Peace.
Oh, we gotta-
Where is it? Oh, we lost somebody. Of course. Yeah, there. Who cares? Pull the report,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah. Highway to the danger zone.
Well, maybe they lost signal.
Yeah. Well, sure. Yeah,
Tell
that's my
myself that.
excuse. You know. Yeah.